So once again, folks, thank you very much for joining us back here in the Rural FASD Speaker Series. We are absolutely thrilled to have Ryan and Carrie from Career Services out of the United Counties of Leeds-Grenville. They're based mainly out of Brockville. Reason we're so excited to have them join us, though, we know we've been having lots of conversations within our own organization around the fact that right now, adults living with FASD, we know that over 70% of them are living below the poverty line. And so employment is absolutely huge. We all know about the challenges that we're seeing within our teenagers and with our young adults related to this. And so to have Ryan and Carrie kind of share a little bit about some of the services they offer, some of the things that they are aware of within this particular sector and field. Definitely looking forward to this presentation. So before we begin, we just want to make sure that we acknowledge that we are currently on the traditional and unceded territory of the Algonquin people, of part of the Anishinaabe, of which land we are currently work, play, and pray. And so with that, Ryan and Carrie, we turn it over to you.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity to present to you guys today. We're excited to be able to do it. Sorry we couldn't join you in person, but I hope this is just equally as fun. My name again is Ryan Billing, and I'm with Career Services. We have a bunch of different hats that we have, and we'll describe what our business is, and maybe introduce Carrie as well.
And I'm Carrie, transition specialist with Career Services.
So as Rob mentioned, we do offer a unique services, and we're going to go kind of describe who we are and what services and supports that we offer to people in Leeds and Grenville. So we're going to give you a little bit of a tour, an insight into Career Services and some of the services that we offer. So we're going to start off with who we are and kind of where we're in the funding tree, so to speak. We're partially funded through the Ministry of Children, Community and Social Services. We're a developmental services agency of Ontario. That's a portion of our funding, and we're going to describe about what the uniqueness of us a little bit later here. We're over 40 years. We're actually getting very close to our 50th year. I think it's 2026 is our 50th year in operation. We're excited about that and to celebrate that. We were a family initiative to start when our operations were first, and we kind of morphed into the employment service agency that we are now. So we're mandated to work with individuals with developmental disabilities, but again, we can offer other supports, and we're going to describe that a little bit later here, because it's pretty cool what we do in terms of having a business that helps. We do manufacturing and all kinds of different things, and that helps us allow us to expand our services to a broader population and to expand and give services further into Leeds and Grenville is another positive thing about it. And we offer training and assessment tools and potentially employment, and obviously that's our focus. But we certainly have more things than just employment. So I'll dive into the business operations and kind of Carrie, we can get into the social services side. So as I mentioned, about half of our operating budget is through MTSS, and again, that's the service to people with developmental disabilities. But because we wanted to offer our services to other people with barriers, we wanted to really offer business operations. So for about 25 years, 30 years, it's been solely kind of a cross between business and social services. So we offer contract packaging and converting solutions. So if you were going to Walmart, you might see some products that have some end packaging and plastic wrapping that we might do these work for some larger corporations. We have on-site crews, or we could do it at our production facility here at 89 Hubble in Brockville. We offer staffing solutions. So I said we used to actually have a number of crews working at various locations throughout some manufacturing plants, like 3M Procter & Gamble was a large one up until they closed. So we actually offer those solutions for companies that maybe don't want to go to full automation. It allows them to do some manual work, specialty work. We can come and do those rework things. And so we offer those unique services. We also make crates and pallets and ship them worldwide. And so that's just something else that we've offered to industry for a number of years. And then lastly, we run a cardboard and recycling business as well for all kinds of businesses and companies. The bigger one that actually we entered right before COVID in 2020 was we actually now have our own product, which is kind of cool. We've always wanted to have something where we could talk about who we are and the people that we support. We had the opportunity to purchase Collage Square knitting needles. So this is knitting needles, crochet hooks, all kinds of various products that we manufacture here in Brockville and sell worldwide. What we love about Collage, and maybe it was the synergy between Collage and our social service, was the fact that all of the products are square designed. And it allows users, some people with hand issues or fibromyalgia, to be able to continue to knit. So it was kind of that breaking down barriers in the knitting world was very similar to what we do in our social service. So we love doing that. So from 2020, we've been manufacturing here. It's great to have Collage here because we have all kinds of training opportunities and employment opportunities for people in our community as well. So that's kind of a cool thing that we always like to talk about. I'm now going to pass it over to Carrie to maybe talk about now the differences between who we service, because this can be the confusing part. We want to make sure we gave you information. So pass it over to Carrie.
So we are mandated and funded by the Ministry of Community, Children and Social Services to support individuals who are DSO eligible. So that's 18 plus with developmental designation. However, only a portion of our budget comes from the MCCSS. So then we're also, as Ryan was talking about, we have our own revenue from business that helps us to expand and self-fund our services. So this is the remainder of our operating budget, and that allows us to support individuals with disabilities that do not meet the Developmental Services Ontario eligibility. So it allows us to be flexible when we're supporting our community. We service 18 plus and self-identifying as having a barrier or disability. And then there's another portion of our supports through our work in the high schools, and that's our transition supports. And it's an example of our self-funded initiative. And we feel it's important because we were finding a lot of students falling through the cracks and students that weren't prepared for the labor market and didn't have connection to their community.
Yeah, and I want to hit that home because it's important. That's where that flexibility comes into play. We saw, there was about 2013, 14, we were kind of seeing issues where we were having people come to us a little bit older, 23, 24. They've been at home for a couple of years without really kind of progressing. And that was a challenge for us when we were working with people in employment, was like, how can we have that transition be more smooth? And so that's where we piloted and did get a small pocket of money to do a transitions pilot for 2 years, 2014 to 16. And what we were seeing out of that was great transitions for students, understanding the services that are available in the community, and then obviously that connection to employment as well. So we were seeing successful employment outcomes from having these supports in school. So that funding went away, but we still said this is important to us. So that's again where the flexibility of us having our business helps us to expand and offer these transition supports to schools. And we really work with the family of schools in Leeds and Grenville. Typically, we're really focusing on the 16 to 18 kind of age period for students as they're kind of planning all of those services and that transition from school. And obviously that's dependent on if the student's leaving at 18 or 21. Now we want to maybe dive into eligibility criteria a little further.
So what is DSO eligibility, or Developmental Services Ontario? So you need to have a diagnosis of a developmental disability. So to qualify, an individual must have a developmental disability according to Ontario's Developmental Services. A developmental disability is characterized by significant limitations in intellectual functioning and adaptive behavior that manifests during the developmental period, typically before the age of 18. The disability must start before the age of 18. Those services can be accessed by individuals at any age. So assessment of intellectual and adaptive functioning. The diagnosis assessment used to determine eligibility often includes tests to measure intellectual functioning. So your IQ and adaptive functioning. That's adaptive functioning is the ability to care for yourself and live independently and interact socially. So generally speaking, they're looking for an IQ of 70 or below for a guideline to diagnosis.
So yeah, that's a lot too. The big thing I think we're realizing is the fact that it's a process that people have to go through, and there's a lot of then application requirements. So again, this is back to where we're finding students in that transition from high school kind of panicking maybe because services aren't set up, not understanding this process that you need to go through. And you're going to see notes in terms of how long it takes to the process to apply and get eligible for service. So we really thought that's very important, and this is one of the main focus points. We'll talk about it in transitions, is helping in these processes, because when you're doing an application, you need to have a proof of residence in Ontario, some sort of photo ID or a birth certificate. And then the key component that they're wanting to look at is access to a psychological or psychoeducational assessment, typically from a student's Ontario student record or OSR. Without assessment, there's a process, and that's going to be a lot more difficult, take longer. So there's more to that. And you may need to do an independent assessment self, or there is referral process the DSO can do to a local psychologist in your area to help with screening. But again, all of this could mean a lot more time. So I think the key for us when we talk to families and students is kind of preparing them at 16 and talking about this process so that you go through it so that you're ready at 18 for services. And again, Carrie gave a great, we talked about it could be 2 months, but it also could be a year to determine eligibility, but then that's not even guaranteeing you the service immediately. So again, you could see there's a process with this that some families maybe aren't aware of. So I think that's one thing we're trying to work with schools to have that communication be part of an overall transition planning, so to speak. So we'll talk about these things when we're sitting with IPRC meetings and talking with when they're developing individual education plans. Let's talk about, so we're going to now actually, I think that's kind of, talking about how people maybe are eligible or not eligible for DSO services. I think we now want to kind of jump to talk about who we are, Career Services. So this would be our mandated services. Again, people can access them potentially, whether you have a developmental disability or not, because we have flexibility. But we really wanted to dive in who we are and what our bread and butter is, because we're focused on employment.
So we assist with employment preparation. So that can be career exploration, resume development, interview preparation. We can support with getting your WMIS training, your workplace safety, AODA, all those certificates that are necessary to start a job. And then we also do some external referrals and connections to community services and programs aimed at getting you a job. The other parts of our services could also be like job development and job retention. So we support with job search or finding volunteer opportunities. And the retention piece is really our job coaching supports, which are very hands-on. We can go right into the workplace and really implement strategies to be successful. And then we also do employer check-ins and engagement to make sure that everybody's happy.
Yeah, I think that's probably the most unique thing of our services, actually, that we do offer those supports to kind of help in that training curve for a person. Like Carrie said, potentially maybe supports they need or tools that they need to be successful in the job. Many employers actually implement some of the strategies that we bring into a job for all of the workforce, because it makes sense. So that's one thing that we really strive to, is making sure the person's getting the level of support. Saying that, though, I mean, when we expand our services in Leeds and Grenville, those hands-on one-on-one supports are tougher when we get further out into Leeds and Grenville. But again, we've worked in strategies on how can we support the person on the sideline and the employer, because that's another thing that we strive to be. It's about the job and making sure that the match and the job is being done well. And so I think employers respect the fact that we are going to advocate for people, but we're advocating for the job to be done in the proper way as well. So again, those are supports that we offer. We're going to dive into our programs a little bit we kind of have the employability determination, we call them. These are a series of service paths, really to help the people that maybe don't have an idea of what they'd like to do, or no job history, or want to kind of examine maybe areas of strengths or weaknesses and things that they can work on. So we kind of have these ready series that we're going to dive into the next slide, I think. So we'll come back to that. But really, those ready series are designed to help people without experience learn about the world of work. As we mentioned before, we talked a little bit about our transition supports. We'll dive into it a little bit more, but again, that's focused on helping people in that transition from high school to adult life. Summer Works is a program that we have for high school students, and it's self-funded, where we offer, again, kind of our job development and job retention supports, but for a summer 8-week program for students in high school. Limited number of students we do, and it's really designed to give that first experience for people. And then we're going to talk a little bit later about virtual reality. We dove into the world of creating virtual reality. So we've made our first simulation, which is called the Careers Cafe, which is actually a full food service. It's adaptable, and we can train people and learn in a food service environment in a virtual safe space, and you're going to learn about that shortly here. So I'll pass to Carrie to talk about all of our employability determination programs.
So first we have Are You Ready? And that's really an introduction to work. So if you're unsure about entering the world of work or what to expect, or if you're just unsure of your own skills. So Are You Ready will start your journey to employment through self-discovery, learning about the expectations and work habits needed for today's job market. So you'll participate in a unique, supported, on-site interactive experience consisting of 2 half-day sessions per week over 4 weeks, totaling for 20 to 25 hours. And you receive a detailed report at the end, including recommendations for moving forward. Then we also have a program for individuals who maybe are aware of their skills or are re-entering the job market.
Or possibly even have had maybe bad experience in the job market, and we're wanting to help maybe let's assess the skills, and we want to look at it, want to see the person in work, and see those skills and maybe help on them. So I thought that was important to add to that. Yeah.
So individuals will participate in 25 to 30 hours in our industry as part of our production team. Again, it's very supported, and there's access to job coaching, but it really gives people the feel for what it means to have a job and to have a boss giving you instructions. So, and when the 4 weeks is up, you also receive another detailed report with some recommendations for next steps.
And I would say these two service paths that we have are advantages of having that operation of business. We have it's a true business we're running. We can actually take tasks ready for work. They're part of the production team. So it's great to actually utilize this tool of we're an employer. So we are understanding it from an employer perspective. And I think we're an inclusive and very fair employer, but we also can teach those skills that they can apply. And it's not us as job coaches telling people this is what you should be doing in the workplace. It's now actually supervisors or coworkers telling people and helping them learn. So that's a tool that we have that business and social services is very key.
Mm-hmm. And finally, we have Ready to Learn, which is something new just last year. We originally launched it during COVID-19 to stay connected to the individuals we were working with. And Ready to Learn has grown into a creative, dynamic, fun way to learn about skill sets and the habits employers look for when hiring. So Ready to Learn is a supportive and informative way to learn about today's job market. It's 8 weeks, an 8-week program, once a week. Generally, we do it right in the high schools, but we are looking at other ways to offer the program. And it's just a really good chance for individuals to also learn about themselves. And we try to make it match everybody's learning style. So there's lots of games and just fun ways to learn.
And I think that Ready to Learn is actually an area where we could even do, because we did it with virtually during COVID, that could be we could offer it as a virtual piece, so it could bring in people from different areas. As Carrie mentioned, we started it by offering it in high schools, but certainly it can be something different that we offer. And we're excited about offering that because, as it says, it's another step or another tool that we have to help people take that step into the labor market and understand what the expectations are of having a job. And those are some of those soft skills that it's very tough to learn unless you actually live it. So all of these programs that we have in our Ready series are really trying to design to help a person be better prepared for the job market. So now we're going to dive into those transition supports. So again, before I'll pass it to Carrie, again, transition supports, service that we offer, self-funded, through experience that we've offered it since 2014. Can't tell you the amount of success we've seen and how it's actually really progressed people from an easy, soft transition from being in school in June, graduating, to right into the labor market. That's probably been one of the successes of it. So I'll pass it to Carrie to describe what we do in transitions.
So in transitions, we work closely with our local high schools to provide support, and it's designed to assist students transitioning to adult services and the community. We focus on students who are 16 and transition planning. So it's not necessarily attached to employment. It's more about making sure that students have support when they're leaving high school. They have a plan for when they're leaving high school, and that goes smoothly. And
I think that was probably one of the big things we saw was we didn't realize the amount of students who maybe fall between the cracks, don't have a connection to maybe a community service or support, and then a lack of understanding of this process to be able to get service. So that was probably one of the bigger areas where we felt the need for us to continue offering this was there were so many students that just didn't have that connection or identification potentially on their OSR, or again, it's just the amount of students that were in this gap was not, I wouldn't say alarming for lack of a better word, but I certainly think it was something that we were like, we need to have this service offer. So that's the highlighted students, is those students that often maybe don't have identification or maybe don't have that service or knowledge of the process to be connected to community.
Yeah, and we spend time reconnecting. Sometimes families have been in service and, things are going well and then they just fall out of touch. So we also can help with getting reconnected. We will assist with applying for essential documents like your birth certificate, SIN number, health card, et cetera. And we support a lot with applying for and determining eligibility for Developmental Services Ontario and for ODSP income supports. We will support with post-secondary connections. So if you want to go on to college, we can help you investigate that and support with the application process. And then just getting connected to community supports and services, so those referrals.
Yeah, and Carrie's mentioned that's probably one of Carrie's greatest tools is understanding the community and the supports that are out there. Oftentimes we've seen students where we're starting with they don't have a birth certificate, they don't have any identification, and so again, to do all these processes, you need to start with square one. Then we've seen Asian students in crisis as well, and again, not understanding or knowing where to go, and that's, I think, one of the bigger things that we do as well is knowing our community supports well and getting them involved as quickly as we can is probably one of the highlights or of our supports that we can offer is helping in those situations to really kind of speed up that process. So that's another important piece that we do with it.
And in our transition planning, sometimes there are students who are very interested in employment or that is part of their transition out of high school. So then we do things like we learn about the world of work and employment, and that's part of our Ready to Learn program, and we can support with getting students connected to other employment programs, especially if they're not the right fit for us, but we can definitely help them get support from other employment programs. we've had opportunities where we've been able to have a student come for an individualized co-op opportunity here when we have the work available. And then we also have our Summer Works program, which is for students 17 and over who really want that first work experience. We spend time job searching and hopefully securing a job, and then there's very hands-on supports because it's just an 8-week period. We are able to provide some more intensive supports for that first job.
Yeah, so you can see our transition supports are it's connection to community / if a person's wanting employment. So again, we're an employment-focused agency, but what we're finding is if we can have students being connected to community, there's a better chance for connection to the labor market at some point if they're prepared for that. So they work well together. So again, our goals of transition programming is much different than in general because it's not solely focused on employment. In fact, it's really just focused on the person having a quality connection to their community.
So we just have some examples, 2 examples of how our transitions program can work. So Darby started, he met us through Transition School to Work, and we supported with a personalized transition plan to identify his goals. He was supported with a co-op experience, connected to ODSP, Income Supports, and Developmental Services Ontario. He participated in our Summer Works program and had his first paid experience and first exposure to the job market with our job coaching supports. He was then supported with the CICE application for St. Lawrence College, and he participated in CICE, and he saw CICE as an opportunity to experience independent living, so I think he was in residence and then was able to move on to independent living. He focused on the humanities and used CICE as a chance to get involved in extracurricular sports, cross-country and soccer. And he remains involved in local sports and Special Olympics. He really took advantage of the college experience. So after CICE, he continued to work with Career Services. He worked in our industry and further developed his employability skills and employment goals. He participated in a program that we had called the Inclusive Employment Program. And it was a partnership program with the Employment Education Center to further develop hands-on skills, where he experienced opportunities at the Y, MCA, and SNAP Fitness. He then secured a job as a crossing guard with the city of Brockville, and has been working in retail now since 2021. Yeah,
he's actually moved into full-time positions and has moved actually a couple different companies, and he's in a very, very good place. It's actually funny because this is Darby where I worked with throughout the transition process, and so it looks like all this linear growth. But in fact, Darby, I remember in our supported cooperative education experience where it wasn't a great experience. So it was actually starting at a place where we needed to work our way back. And Darby actually took it to heart. He was very sensitive to not having success in the workplace. So we kind of actually did some learning in his co-op, actually pulled him out of his co-op experience, did some learning in school, then it took it back to the Summer Works experience, and then that's where he had some success, and that started to snowball for him. To see him go from that, where he was a shell of, he was kind of very, very timid and very scared to kind of participate in community, to then seeing him go have that experience at St. Lawrence College in the CICE program and see the growth just in him as an individual was quite remarkable. And so we've then seen that transition continue as he's entered the workforce. It's neat too, because it kind of, Carrie's mentioned, like, continue to work with us. It's been maybe hit or miss. It might be he checks in with us maybe a year later and going, maybe I'm interested in finding another opportunity, or I'm having this problem at work. That's another unique piece of us, that we're kind of there on the sidelines for people, as kind of that. We want people to retain those jobs and be happy in jobs. And when somebody calls us back to say they're not, that's okay. We can come back and talk about what are the next opportunities. So Darby's a really good example, and both of these examples that we're going through really kind of illustrate how a person's kind of accessing all of the services that we have. And he's just another example of that growth. And I'm not sure if we weren't there in the transition to start, what it looks like if he was starting this at 18. Would he have gone and done the CS experience without having maybe some employment experience? I don't know. So it's an interesting kind of when we examine how things go. But the key for Darby and I think for our supports was we got to really know him from 16 on and really knew how to support him in job search and job coaching and how to break jobs down for him much better than if he came to us later on. So that's an advantage of us having transition supports, is being able to better know students and help them in that employment. So we're going to go over and talk about our next client, who's Miss Anonymous.
Yeah.
And you, Carrie, supported this person and still continue to support this person.
Yeah, so she came into service through our transition school to work, and actually it was the school we were at, we met once a month. We had transition Thursdays there, and this was really instrumental in getting to know this young woman and kind of breaking down the walls and just building a rapport with her. So we had lots of discussions around supported employment and finding a second job, because she already had a job that she really didn't enjoy going to, but realized the importance of having a job. So we were talking about other ways to get a job and what supports were available in the community. So she came into our Summer Works program to experience, a job outside of the service and food industry. And it didn't go so well. But that's okay. She came back into kind of our service for she wanted to do some college. So we helped her do that. So she entered St. Lawrence College, and we also did an ODSP application and a DSO application. She ended up unenrolling in her college experience because she just didn't feel like it was a great fit, and then participated in our connection sessions, which was our original Ready to Learn that we did during the COVID pandemic. And actually it's interesting because she started that and she would not use her camera, but by the end of it, we had warmed her up to the idea of using her camera and actually speaking and really getting involved. We developed a life plan to determine her goals and then supported her with a CICE application because college was so important to her. She did some VJob Ready, which allowed her to do some upskilling, which now allowed us to go in and support her at her job, and she could now work the point of sale system, and she's able to do more than one role at her work.
And I think that was probably, to maybe give you a picture, like how very timid to meet person or to take a step or to do something different. So she was in the job for a couple of years and was only doing a portion of the job. I'll say it, terrified maybe to go and do front of house service to customers. So again, I think all of those supports that Carrie and helping her, the connection sessions of like getting outside of her box, getting in her comfort zone, experiencing school, all of these things were growth for her to be able to kind of take next steps. That VJob Ready, and we're going to describe it a little bit later, it was actually just a great way for her to experience and maybe have just another way to have some more confidence building, because that was her biggest barrier was herself and her confidence and trying to really take a step. So again, all of these little small steps, Carrie, that you were taking with her were key in her progress.
And she's also a really good example of, we did do ODSP and DSO applications, but hers actually took like 2 years, because I think partially because of the pandemic, but also because she needed to go for that adaptive testing because her other scores were very high and she wasn't deemed eligible for supports. But after we advocated for her to be assessed, and she was able to be assessed and was given the eligibility criteria, which now she's able to access some more community supports.
Yeah, actually, our next poll, there's a service that we we forgot to have on our slide is we actually are involved in Mentorability. It's a national program where it's actually a great opportunity to experience maybe an industry or a job that you might have some interest in, or learn more about it. So we use Mentorability actually to do that, kind of to build a relationship with a business, to have an experience, sit down, maybe ask questions. It could be that you're going to shadow them for a day. But really, we actually utilize Mentorability, again, national program, to kind of give those little experiences about what it would be like. So somebody maybe is interested in physical fitness. We might get them connected and to shadow a fitness instructor to kind of, is that something that I actually want to do? So Mentorability is actually a great way for people to see in different workplaces. And this person in particular used that probably actually part of the confidence building again. Taking a step out probably was a key for her too, and just getting and seeing a different work environment.
But yeah, I think it was a really powerful experience because she had this idea that she wanted to have this career, and then we actually got to go in and see it and ask the employer questions, and she walked away thinking, oh, like maybe that isn't what I want. So it was a good experience.
Yeah, because oftentimes people, again, if your perception of what a job is, you might think it's great, but it's actually when you're doing the job, it's the complete opposite of what you thought.
And I think the positive that came from it was she wanted to go to another college program specifically designated to that, and found out before kind of committing to that it might not be the best fit for her. So
yeah, so like she went now, she's completed CICE. And now I think that, again, that experience and that program, I think, was really helpful in her development of confidence in her skills, because she's got the skills. It was more just the confidence that she needs in herself. So that experience, I think, was that success in that program then really helped kind of drive her forward. And so now she's continuing on, and we still work with her. I think the other thing is now she's connected with other services and supports as well. So again, this is another non-linear, this isn't just growth and everything's perfect. There was lots of obstacles in the way. Carrie mentioned timelines on applications and things like that. But I think the key in all of it was that we were there to kind of support and walk the person through it is the key.
Yeah.
So yeah, we mentioned VJob Ready. So I'm going to actually just dive in and talk about VJob Ready a little bit, because we always like to talk about our virtual reality tool. It is something that's great because we could package it up and travel and take it to places and explore. We utilize it obviously for all of our programming when a person's coming in. All of those services paths, we're utilizing virtual reality, especially if the person has interest in working in food service, or I would say retail in general. So I'm going to show you, if it works here, hopefully, a little video, and I just got to make sure.
Meet Bill. Bill's job search is giving him anxiety. Bill has little work experience and is starting to worry about what having a job will look like. Bill wonders, what if my boss yells at me for not knowing what to do? What if I'm not fast enough? What if they ask me to work a POS? Bill's employment developer decides to give VJob Ready a try. The portable, easy-to-use training system that gives a safe place for Bill and people like him to learn and develop new skills. Bill is immediately immersed in VJob Ready's virtual kitchen, learning a point-of-sale system, health and safety, food, and order assembly. Job seekers can work in a safe, virtual environment with a job coach helping them develop the skills they need for the next step. The learning curve for VJob Ready is proven to be incredibly steep, and participants usually see progress in just one session. Bill was happy to learn and gain confidence to prepare him for the job. Employers see immediate results with staff who train using VJob Ready. They are more confident, understand the importance of hand washing, have proven POS experience, and waste is limited in a kitchen environment. VJob Ready is training that's out of this world.
to do that. All right, so that's a little bit of our promo video from Be Job Ready. So we created it in 2020. We created a module that the Careers Cafe piloted, and we received some funding to actually create that. And then that's just through the Ministry of Training that we actually received the dollars to do the build. Part of that project was actually to do an employment portion. So it was receive the training in VR and apply it to job. And then really actually we did an assessment of that. So we did a pilot between ourselves, Community Living in Kingston, an agency in Niagara St. Catharines, and Wiesel out of Ottawa, who partnered with us. We had 160 participants go through it. I think we can go to the next slide, because this is important. Yeah, this is what we found out of it was staggering in terms of our retention numbers. This is a little bit out of date, some of the data on it, but our retention numbers are probably about at an 83% now. We're going on about 3 years where some people, or up to 3 years where a person could be in employment. Very high numbers for us. What we were finding with participants when they were going through it was they were having this very real experience in a virtual environment, but it was a kitchen. They were on the job. They were working the POS. So they were learning some core transferable skills in this safe, comfortable environment where we could actually learn and talk about and maybe adjust learning patterns or ask the right questions about why they were, or even see barriers that we need to work on. So I think it gave us really a lot of experience. And backtracking with VR, we did a study with Queen's University and just really saw the benefits that of learning and using VR for neurodiverse populations. So that really kind of gave us kind of the leverage to kind of enter and want to go and seek to build our own, because we really wanted to have a tool that could help a person maybe learn some of those transferable skills prior to getting into the job. We do use mentorability now where you can go in and see a job, but we were really struggling with a person having the ability to do some training. So our virtual reality is very unique because we can kind of cater the experience and challenge the person. So typically we have people go through about 3 sessions, they average, to about 10 sessions we've used for some people, where they're learning the habits in work, and we can challenge them with different complexity of orders, challenge them with hybrid payments. We can spoil food in the restaurant. So what it does is actually it's a layered learning. It's great to see a person's retention of the task. We can monitor and understand their speed in different areas. So it really it changes the way we actually have our conversations about employment as well, because we're talking about real experiences that they just have. My example, I always use a gentleman who was super, super anxious, who wanted to work at Tim Hortons. So we went through the training, and what we were finding in the training, though, was he was getting very frustrated with things in the virtual reality environment very quickly. So that actually allowed us to maybe think about, we need to develop strategies for the person when they get on a job, because they're going to be frustrated, because you're working in fast food, you're going to have frustrations come in front of you. So that gave us the ability to talk and create strategies that we wouldn't have been able to see until the person was in the job. So I think virtual reality and Be Job Ready helped us prepare the person prior to getting in that. So the numbers on here, again, probably the biggest one I wanted to talk about was that retention in jobs, because that is very, very high, comparatively speaking to the sector. I think we were able to target jobs better because we just had a better understanding of people as well. It's probably maybe part of that as well. So it was super successful. We're continuing to use it ourselves. We're continuing to seek funding to expand and offer and create new virtual reality simulations that are out there. And currently we have a number of people across the world that are using Be Job Ready as a training support. So I think in summary, you could see we're pretty complex, but not when all of these things are combined. I think I like to say we are a business and social service reimagined, because we're really all of these working things working together for one goal, an inclusive community, and helping support the people that we do in the most effective ways. I've mentioned how our business is so unique that it allows us to offer these development programming and service paths for people. Really cool that we can actually manufacture a product and sell it worldwide. and put our name and stamp on it and tell about our story too. That's really, really cool. And lastly, with Be Job Ready, it's really just another avenue and tool that we can do to be creative to help people. At the end of the day, again, I think we've always prided ourselves on being something for the community to solve a need. And I think all these programs and our transition supports are all tools that help lead to a successful community that we hope that is inclusive. So, Carrie, anything else that you'd like to add? I will put our information up here. Again, we're available. We are located out of Brockville. Again, because I think the unique individualized service, we always just kind of say to people, reach out to us, talk to us. We'll certainly help you. If our service is the best to connect with, we'll do that. Or if there's another community service that's out there that you're needing, we're wanting to help with that. So you can certainly follow us on socials. Instagram, Facebook, I always got to plug our socials. Our social media team will be happy with that. Follow us though, because we do tell some unique stories, especially about that crossing between our business. I think it's always kind of unique to follow along and see some of the developments that we do in our business side. So thank you for the opportunity for Carrie and I to come here today and speak to you. It's been a pleasure.
So again, on behalf of our audience here, I can tell you there was a highly engaged audience here. There was a lot of head nodding. There was a lot of smiles. There was a lot of whispers and conversations going on the side as you were presenting. When I think through, as I was saying before, I think one of the big aspects that from our standpoint is extremely important is the fact that you don't necessarily require that diagnosis and that DSO designation in order to be able to access your services. For us, that is an absolute huge one. There's been a couple studies that have came out in the past year and a half where we know in Ontario, because of the lack of diagnostic capacity, it's actually 98% of adults living with FASD are not diagnosed right now. And so without that diagnosis, you're not accessing ODSP, you're not accessing passport funding and DSO. And so we can well imagine that the large majority of folks that you're working with very much are probably falling under that portfolio that we're also dealing with. So I think that is a huge consideration for folks to keep in mind moving forward. And then as well to see the success that you had with your VR courses and the impact that you have had. We completely get thinking outside the box and recognizing that the way things have been done in the past are not always necessarily the most effective ways of doing things. And we've also seen, yes, technology when used properly can be a game changer for our folks that we're working with. So thank you so much for this, Carrie and Ryan. The only other observation before we finish off here is, I think the two of you should think about a podcast career moving forward, by the way. This is definitely one of the best ones that we have seen, and to watch the interaction of the two of you and the way and the passion that you have regarding supporting people living with developmental disabilities and disabilities in general, it really shone through. And so for that, we also thank you. So with that, we do want to say goodbye to our studio audience. Once again, we will be doing our normal December meeting where we will not be having a speaker come in. So we'll be looking forward to seeing you once again in January. And again, we thank Ryan and Carrie from Career Services. You have their phone numbers, their contact information on your screen right now. We certainly encourage you to reach out to them if you have need for their services. And with that, we say good day.